Is human civilization standing on the precipice of a prophesied collapse, where even the most solid laws of physics have begun to betray us? Do not just look at isolated headlines or fleeting news clips. Instead, look at the unfolding canvas of a world in transition. The earth itself is breathing. The sky is singing a haunting melody, and blood is flowing through the veins of our great rivers. We are witnessing a convergence of events that defies conventional logic and challenges the very foundations of our scientific understanding. The first tremors of this global shift are not felt through traditional earthquakes, but through a terrifying transformation of what we once considered the most stable foundations of our world. Deep with the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, hikers have recently captured footage that has sent shock waves through the geological community. The ground is appearing to rise and fall in a rhythmic, slow motion, mimicking the chest of a giant creature in deep slumber.
While agers quoted in the New York Times have attempted to rail this as a mere redistribution of pressure or a layer poem of 열적 expansion within the soil. Their explanations pull flat when confronted with the raw data. Local seismic monitors recorded no significant tectonic activity during these events, leaving a void where scientific certainty used to reside. If the movement was purely geological, the instruments would have screamed if they remained eerily silent while the earth literally moved under people's feet. Simultaneously, along the sun-drenched coasts of Florida, the land is surrendering to the sea with a chilling lack of violence. The Miami Herald는 documented instance where massive stretches of coastline and ancient sand dunes simply vanished overnight without the presence of a storm or surge or a tsunami. While geologists point to the porous limestone foundation of the state, the sheer velocity of this erosion is unprecedented and defies historical modeling. This isn't just erosion, it is a structural failure of the Earth's crust. When the very pillars of the world begin to soften and sway,
we are forced to look beyond the tectonic and toward the transcendent. In the Holy Scriptures, Psalm verse chill warns us of a time when the earth would tremble and quake, and the foundations of the mountains would be shaken because of a divine stirring. This ancient text resonates with terrifying clarity today as we watch the immovable mountains breathe and the solid shores dissolve. It instills a primal fear in the soul, forcing us to ask, if the very rocks beneath our feet are no longer reliable, where can we truly stand? This instability is not a localized anomaly, but the beginning of a global unraveling that signals the end of the world as we have known it. Following this geological instability, the crisis has moved into the very lifeblood of the continent, our water systems. In Texas and along the lower stretches of the Mississippi River near St. Louis, the water has undergone a transformation that looks like a scene straight out of an apocalyptic vision. The currents have turned a deep, opaque crimson, thickening in consistency and emitting a sharp, metallic odor that clings to the air. According to reports from the Associated Press, local environmental agencies were quick to suggest that this was the result of sudden algae blooms or iron-rich sediment being churned up by subsurface shifts. However, these clinical explanations fail to address the most disturbing aspects of the phenomenon. In these areas, wildlife has reacted with an instinctive terror that science cannot quantify. Birds have completely abandoned their nesting grounds along the riverbanks, and fish are dying by the thousands in a state of mass asphyxiation, even though water tests show oxygen levels that should be more than sufficient for survival. The timing of these occurrences across multiple states, disconnected by geography but unified by time, suggests a systemic change rather than a localized pollution event. It is a haunting modern reflection of the first plague of Egypt, described in Exodus 7:17, where the waters were turned to blood as a sign of impending judgment. When the water that sustains our cities, our crops, and our bodies turns into a symbol of death and decay, it serves as a visceral reminder that our survival is tethered to a natural order that is currently being overwritten. The sight of these red rivers has silenced communities, leaving residents to stare in fearful contemplation at the water, sensing that the life-giving essence of the planet is being withdrawn or corrupted. This is not a mere ecological disaster. It is a spiritual alarm, a signal that the source of life is being signaled out for a reckoning that no water treatment plant or government agency can hope to reverse. The atmosphere itself has joined this chorus of anomalies, as the silence of the night is being shattered by sounds that have no place in the natural world. Across the vast expanses from Oregon to Illinois, residents have begun reporting a phenomenon that sounds like a massive metallic choir or the sounding of ancient trumpets echoing from the upper atmosphere. These are not the sharp cracks of thunder or the hum of distant industry. They are hollow, reverberating tones that seem to vibrate the very air inside people's lungs. The Weather Channel and various meteorological outlets have attempted to dismiss these as skyquakes, caused by high-altitude pressure changes or methane gas escapes. Yet these explanations fail to account for the synchronized nature of the sounds or the visual signs that accompany them. Alongside these haunting trumpets, witnesses have documented narrow, brilliant shafts of light that pierce the darkness, and most notably, the appearance of a massive, stationary light in the shape of a cross hanging silently in the sky over several Midwestern towns. There is no drone technology or aircraft capable of maintaining such a precise, luminous form for hours without sound or movement. This atmospheric heraldry aligns with the warnings found in Revelation 8, which speaks of 7 trumpets sounding to warn the inhabitants of the earth. These sounds and lights are not just weather patterns. They are a summons, an auditory and visual bridge between the physical and the spiritual realms, intended to strip away our modern distractions and force us to look upward. This disruption of the natural order has extended into the animal kingdom, revealing a chilling loss of instinct among the creatures that usually sense danger long before humans do. In New Mexico and the Texas Panhandle, ranchers have documented bizarre standstills, where entire herds of cattle and wild deer remain frozen in place for hours, staring toward a single point on the horizon with a vacant, glazed expression, completely unresponsive to noise or physical prodding.
This is Polarisis was followed by the Southern, localized emergence of rock-host swamps in the Midwest. So deans they appeared on radar as storm clouds. Reuters reported that these swamps decimated thousands of acres of wheat and corn in a matter of minutes, a rate of destruction that far exceeds normal seasonal pest activity. While scientists scramble to link this to shifting climate cycles or soil moisture levels, the biblical parallels are impossible to ignore. Joel 1:4 describes this exact progression of destruction, where one wave of pestilence follows another until the land is left bare. The fact that animals are losing their self-preservation instincts while ancient plagues return to the fields suggests that the software of nature is being corrupted, signaling a transition into a period where the old rules of biology and survival no longer apply. The very elements are now clashing in ways that defy the laws of chemistry and physics, most notably in the Gulf of Mexico off the coast of Louisiana. Witnesses and maritime workers have reported seeing pillars of fire erupting directly from the surface of the ocean, burning with an intense orange hue even amidst heavy waves. USA Today covered the incident, noting that the Coast Guard found no evidence of oil spills, ruptured pipelines, or gas leaks that could sustain such a combustion. Water and fire, two elements that should naturally extinguish one another, are coexisting in a terrifying display of elemental defiance. This paradox is mirrored on land in states like Pennsylvania, where winter flash floods have occurred in sub-zero temperatures. Streets have been submerged in rushing water even when there has been no significant rainfall or snowmelt, as if the water is being forced up from the ground by an internal pressure the earth can no longer contain. This total breakdown of elemental boundaries creates a sense of profound helplessness. We have built our civilization on the assumption that fire burns and water drapes. But when those certainties vanish,
Our ability to protect ourselves vanishes with them. As these signs intensify, the infrastructure of our modern world is being systematically dismantled by a series of weather events that are unprecedented in their scope. A massive winter storm system recently stretched over 2,000 miles, paralyzing the United States from the Northeast to the Great Plains. Fox News reported on the unprecedented mobilization of the National Guard as power grids failed and major interstate highways became impassable, not just from snow, but from the earth itself cracking open. In Missouri, the ground under key transit routes fractured, spewing mud and ancient silt upward as if the planet were being wrung like a sponge. While engineers talk of frost heaves and soil saturation, the scale suggests a much deeper structural trauma. This is the physical manifestation of Isaiah 24:19, which prophesies that the earth will be utterly broken and shaken violently.
The collapse of our supply chains and the pridging of our cities are not just logistical failures. They are demonstration of how quickly the safety of the 80-wheel city can be stripped away, leaving us vulnerable and exposed to the elements we sought we had conquered.
Perhaps the most haunting aspect of this entire progression is the surreal contrast between these apocalyptic signs and the mundane flow of daily life. Just as in the days of Noah, the majority of the population remains preoccupied with the digital glow of their screens, the pursuit of wealth, and the endless cycle of entertainment, even as the world crumbles around them. We are seeing the rapid implementation of centralized digital currencies and biometric tracking systems, which many see as the technical framework for the mark of the beast described in the scriptures. Society is being conditioned to accept total control in exchange for a false sense of peace and security, exactly as warned in the New Testament. Matthew 24 tells us that the end would come at a time when people were eating, drinking, and marrying, oblivious to the gathering storm. This spiritual blindness is the final sign. The earth is screaming, the heavens are signaling, and the very water is turning the blood. Yet the world continues to dance on the edge of the abyss. As we move from the crimson veins of the earth, the celestial canopy above has begun to broadcast a terrifying message of its own, signaling that the disturbance is not merely terrestrial, but universal. Across a massive corridor of the United States stretching from the dense forests of Oregon to the open plains of Illinois, the night sky has ceased to be a place of quiet reflection. Thousands of residents have begun documenting a phenomenon that defies every known law of acoustics. A deep, metallic, reverberating sound that many described as the blast of a colossal brass trumpet echoing from the very edge of space. This is not the familiar crack of a sonic bomb or the chaotic rumble of distant thunder. It is a melodic, hollow resonance that seems to vibrate the very skeletal structure of those who hear it. The Weather Channel and various meteorological analysts have attempted to pacify the public by labeling these occurrences as skyquakes, attributing them to high-altitude atmospheric pressure shifts or the movement of tectonic plates deep beneath the ocean floor. However, these academic theories crumble when faced with the sheer duration and harmonic nature of the sounds. A pressure shift does not produce a sustained rhythmic tone that lasts for 10 minutes at a time, nor does it occur simultaneously across 3 different time zones. The mystery deepened further when these auditory anomalies were accompanied by visual signs that no modern technology can account for. Witnesses have reported narrow,
laser shape, shaft of light, piercing through thick cloud, cover without the presence of lightning, followed by the most chilling sight of all, a massive, perfectly balanced and motionless light in the shape of a cross hanging over the horizon. Unlike a drone or a satellite, this cross-shaped light emitted no heat signature and remained fixed in the sky for nearly an hour before fading into nothingness. There is no aircraft in the military or commercial inventory capable of hovering in total silence with search and meets. Luminosity, this convergence of sound and light, points directly to the prophetic warnings found in the 8th chapter of the book of Revelation, which describes 7 celestial trumpets sounding to announce a period of unprecedented trial for the inhabitants of the earth. These sounds are a summons, a final call to attention for a humanity that has become deaf to the spiritual world, forcing us to realize that we are incredibly small in the face of a supernatural power currently rearranging the heavens. The disruption has now descended from the sky into the very blood and bone of the animal kingdom, revealing that the creatures of the field possess a terrifying awareness of what is coming that we have long since lost. In the vast ranch lands of New Mexico and the rugged terrain of Oklahoma, a phenomenon known as the standstill has left seasoned farmers and wildlife experts in a state of shock. Entire herds of cattle, along with wild deer and horses, have been observed, standing perfectly still in open fields for hours on the end. They do not graze, they do not move to the water, and they do not react to the presence of predators or human vehicles. Instead, they stand with their heads tilted upward, staring with vacant, unblinking eyes at an invisible point in the atmosphere, as if they are watching a curtain being pulled back on another dimension. This eerie silence of the animals was merely the prelude to a much more violent ecological shift. Shortly after these periods of paralysis, massive swarms of locusts began to emerge across the Midwest and the southern plains with a ferocity that Reuters has described as unprecedented in several decades. These are not the typical seasonal grasshoppers known to the American heartland. These are aggressive, highly structured clouds of insects that have been documented checking out the sun and stripping thousands of acres of corn and wheat to the bare stalks in mere minutes. While state universities scramble to blame this on shifting soil temperatures or unusual rainfall patterns, the timing of these plagues suggests a much more ancient and deliberate design. The instinctive terror and subsequent staring behavior of the animals indicate that they are receiving a signal that the human mind is currently too cluttered to perceive. This is a direct physical manifestation of the prophecy in Joel 1:4, which speaks of a day when the palmer worm, the locust,
the cankerworm, and the calipearl was rise as an army to devour the pride of the land.
When nature itself begins to behave like a coordinated military force and animals lose their basic survival instincts to simply watch the sky, it is a definitive sign that the clock of creation has entered its final hour. The earth is no longer providing for its inhabitants. It is revolting against them, acting as a herald for a day of reckoning that is no longer a distant threat, but a present reality. We are witnessing the total breakdown of the biological order, a warning that the signal has been sent, and while the animals have stopped to listen, the rest of the world continues to rush toward its own destruction. This collapse of the natural and biological order has now escalated into a full-scale defiance of the fundamental laws of thermodynamics and physics, creating a reality where the very elements that define our existence have begun to act in direct contradiction to their own nature. This elemental rebellion is most vividly captured in a series of events occurring off the coast of Louisiana,
where the Gulf of Mexico has become the stage for a phenomenon that should be physically impossible under any known scientific framework. Maritime workers and local residents have documented massive dairua, or ribbons of fire, burning intensely as the float attacked the saltwater waves.
Unlike a typical industrial accident, there were no plumes of black smoke, no smell of burning crude, and no signature of a chemical accelerant. USA Today reported on the profound confusion within the United States Coast Guard as they dispatched teams to investigate these sightings, only to find that there were no leaking pipelines, no capsized tankers, and no underwater methane vents that could account for the sustained combustion. These fires did not flicker and die when hit by the spray of the sea. Instead, they danced upon the surface of the water as if the water itself were the fuel. In any laboratory on Earth, fire and water are the ultimate opposites, where one must inevitably destroy the other. Yet in the Gulf,
they have entered into a terrifying coexistence. This is a clear signal that the regulatory systems of the planet, the invisible thermostat and chemical balance that have allowed life to flourish for millennia, are suffering a catastrophic failure. When the basic properties of the elements are rewritten, we are forced to acknowledge that the covenant between the Creator and the creation is being shaken to its core. As the fires burned on the southern waters, an equally inexplicable hydrological anomaly was unfolding in the frozen landscape of Pennsylvania, further proving that the Earth's elemental cycle is in a state of terminal disarray. In the midst of a brutal cold snap, with temperatures plummeting well below zero and the ground frozen as hard as concrete, massive flash floods suddenly tore through suburban streets and urban tunnels. Under normal circumstances, a flash flood requires heavy rainfall or a rapid, large-scale melting of snow, but in this instance, there was neither. The sky remained clear and the air remained freezing, yet torrents of liquid water surged from the earth and overflowed drainage systems that were never designed to handle such volume in the dead of winter. Local hydrologists were left speechless, as their sensors showed no atmospheric reason for the surge. It was as if the water was being violently expelled from the subterranean depths, forced upward by a pressure that defies traditional geological modeling. The news cycles in the Northeast were filled with images of cars submerged in ice-cold water while the thermometer continued to drop, creating a surreal landscape where the rules of the seasons were completely obliterated. This mixing of Hoa, Tui, and Bangza, fire, water, and ice, in ways that violate the logic of our daily lives, serves to strip away the last vestiges of human confidence. We have built our cities and our lives on the assumption that nature follows a predictable script, but we are now entering a period where that script has been torn up. This total breakdown of the elemental boundaries creates a sense of profound existential insecurity. When the water refuses to extinguish the fire and the ice refuses to keep the water still, the human race is left without any physical or scientific defense. We are witnessing the Earth unmaking itself, returning to a state of chaotic flux that mirrors the dark, formless void described before the beginning of time, a final warning that the foundations of the world are being withdrawn. This elemental chaos is not merely a collection of random weather events, but a synchronized failure of the planetary mechanism that points toward a deeper, spiritual reality. The presence of fire on the deep sea and the eruption of floods in the frozen desert of winter are the physical symptoms of a world that is no longer being held together by the same laws that governed it yesterday. Scientists may attempt to find a new equation or a hidden variable to explain away these wonders, but for those with eyes to see, these are the fearful sights and great signs from heaven that precede the closing of an age. The fact that these events are happening simultaneously, the fire in the south and the water in the north, demonstrates a global symmetry of disorder. We are living through a period of planetary delirium, where the Earth is lashing out in ways that expose the fragility of our technological civilization. If we cannot rely on the sea to be wet and the fire to be hot, then every skyscraper we build, every bridge we span, and every city we inhabit is a monument built on shifting sand. This is the ultimate paradox of our time. As we reach the height of our scientific achievement, the universe itself is beginning to ignore the laws we worked so hard to discover. This leaves us at a crossroads where logic ends and faith must begin, as we realize that the only thing more terrifying than a world in ruins is a world where the very elements are no longer on our side. The elemental defiance seen in the fire on the Gulf and the floods in Pennsylvania has now coalesced into a singular continental-scale onslaught that has systematically dismantled the pride of modern engineering. A monster winter storm system stretching an incredible 2,000 miles from the frozen corridors of the Northeast down through the industrial heartland of the Midwest has effectively paralyzed the most advanced nation on Earth. This is not merely a seasonal blizzard, it is a structural failure of the atmosphere that has exposed the extreme fragility of our interconnected society. Fox News has extensively documented the unprecedented mobilization of the National Guard across multiple states as power grids, designed to withstand the harshest conditions, began to undergo cascading failures. These are not just local outages, but a systemic collapse that has left millions in total darkness and sub-zero temperatures, turning modern homes into frozen cells. In the skies, the chaos is reflected in the total shutdown of air travel, with thousands of flights canceled and major hubs turned into camps for the stranded, as the red "canceled" signs on terminal boards serve as a silent testament to our loss of control. On the ground, the situation is even more dire. Major interstate highways, the arteries of our economy, have been transformed into eerie graveyards of steel. Thousands of vehicles, including massive cargo trucks carrying essential supplies, have been abandoned in the middle of the roads, buried under mountains of snow and ice as their drivers fled for their lives. This total cessation of movement is a physical manifestation of a system that has been pushed beyond its breaking point, revealing that our just-in-time supply chains are a house of cards that can be blown away by a single, prolonged breath of the earth.
The most disturbing evidence that this storm is more than just weather appeared in the state of Missouri, where theirs begun to tear itself apart under the pressure of the cold. While the surface was covered in ice, the ground beneath began to fracture, with massive cracks hundreds of feet long appearing through the solid os part of the primary transit loops. In a phenomenon that terrified local residents, dark mud and pressurized groundwater began to puffed through these fissures, geysering upward, as if the planet itself were being squeezed by an invisible hand. Local geologists and state officials have attempted to pacify the public by suggesting this is the result of extreme frost heave, a process where water freezes and expands under the pavement. But this explanation fails to account for the sheer force and depth of the ruptures. Frost heave is typically a slow, surface-level process, but what occurred in Missouri was a violent
internal expulsion of subterranean material that suggests the very bones of the continent are undergoing a traumatic shift. This is the literal fulfillment of the ancient warning found in Isaiah 24:19, which declares that the earth will be utterly broken, clean dissolved, and shaken exceedingly. When the ground beneath a major highway, a symbol of human order and connectivity, splits open to spew the darkness of the deep, it is a sign that the planet is being rent from within.
The scientific community may search for technical terms to describe the expansion of soil, but they cannot explain why the Earth chooses this specific moment of atmospheric crisis to break its own skin. This massive paralysis of infrastructure is not just a logistical nightmare. It is a profound psychological and spiritual blow to the modern world order. We have built our civilization on the belief that we have conquered nature through technology, that our power grids, our satellite-guided trucks, and our paved highways have made us immune to the whims of the elements. However, this 2,000-mile storm has shattered that illusion of safety in a matter of hours. The collapse of the transportation networks means that food cannot reach shelves, fuel cannot reach stations, and emergency services cannot reach the dying. This is the sudden destruction that arrives when men are crying peace and safety. The sight of the National Guard patrolling frozen, empty streets serves as a grim preview of a world where the system no longer functions. It is a moment of forced stillness that strips away the noise of the 21st century and leaves us face to face with our own vulnerability. The failure of the infrastructure is a mirror to the failure of the human spirit when it is disconnected from the Creator. We are witnessing the dismantling of the global machine, a demonstration that every bridge we build and every wire we string is ultimately subject to the sovereign will of the one who commands the storm. As the highways remain silent and the grid remains dark, the message is clear. The order we have constructed for ourselves is temporary, and it is currently being weighed in the balance and found wanting. This is not just a problem for engineers to solve.
It is a call for humanity to recognize that the foundations of our world are not made of asphalt and steel, but of a spiritual covenant that we have long ignored. The tearing of the earth in Missouri and the freezing of the American heartland are the outward signs of an inward reality, that the age of human self-sufficiency is coming to a violent and cold conclusion. In the wake of these cataclysmic shifts in nature and the total paralysis of our modern infrastructure, there exists a profound and terrifying paradox within human society itself. Despite the clear and undeniable signs, the rivers of blood, the sounding trumpets, and the very earth fracturing beneath our feet, a massive portion of the global population remains deeply submerged in a state of spiritual and mental anesthesia. We are witnessing the era of the Great Distraction, where the majority of people continue to prioritize parties, social media trends, and hollow entertainment over the reality of their own survival. This collective indifference is not a coincidence. It is a chilling, modern-day reenactment of the days of Noah. As the ancient scriptures record, the generation before the flood was so preoccupied with the mundane rituals of eating, drinking, and marrying that they were completely oblivious to the gathering storm until the day the fountains of the deep burst open and swept them all away. Today we see the exact same pattern. Individuals scroll through mindless digital feeds while the atmosphere above them vibrates with supernatural frequencies. This apathy is the final barrier to waking up, a thick veil of normalcy that prevents the soul from recognizing that the world as we have known it is already gone. This social indifference is being met with the rapid construction of an unprecedented global cage designed to monitor and regulate every aspect of human existence. While the masses are distracted by their screens, the technical architecture for a total control system is being quietly finalized. We are seeing the aggressive push for central bank digital currencies, CBDC, and universal digital identification systems that will eventually dictate a person's ability to buy, sell, or travel based on their compliance with a central authority. To those familiar with the prophetic warnings of the Bible, this is the unmistakable framework for the mark of the beast described in the book of Revelation. This system is being presented under the guise of peace and safety and technological convenience, yet its true purpose is to trap humanity in a web of total dependence on a godless structure. According to the teachings in Matthew 24, this period of tribulation began its slow acceleration with the global conflicts of the 20th century and is now reaching a fever pitch characterized by an explosion of lawlessness and a chilling coldness in human love. This is not a random sequence of geopolitical events. It is a pre-written script intended to test the faithfulness and the resolve of every living soul. The convergence of natural disaster and digital control is a dual-pronged assault designed to force every individual to choose their allegiance. Will you trust in the failing systems of man, or will you stand with the Creator, who is currently shaking the heavens? After witnessing the full spectrum of these anomalies, from the ground that breathes like a living lung to the skies that sound with the blast of trumpets, and from the life-giving rivers turning into thick blood to the impossible sight of fire burning upon the ocean waves, the question is no longer whether something is happening, but whether you are willing to see it. We have reached a point in history where the pride of modern science has hit a ceiling. The equations of the past can no longer calculate the phenomena of the present. We are living in the final warning hours issued by the Creator of the universe. This is a moment of profound clarity, where the veil of the physical world is being pulled back to reveal the spiritual reality underneath. Every broken highway in Missouri, every vanished beach in Florida, and every red-stained bank of the Mississippi is a drumbeat announcing that the age of human self-sufficiency is over. You are no longer watching a news cycle. You are watching the fulfillment of a divine promise that all things hidden will be brought to light. The choice now lies directly before you, and it is the most significant decision you will ever make.
Will you choose to remain asleep in the false security of a world that is clearly dissolving? Or will you wake up and prepare for a day that no human being can avoid? This is not a call to fear or to panic, for fear is the weapon of the enemy. Instead, this is a call to a sober and intentional awakening of the heart. If you feel the weight of these moments and the urgency of the signs we have discussed, then it is time to humble yourself and seek the only protection that is not made of wood, stone, or digital code. Do not wait for the government to tell you the truth, for they are the architects of the distraction. Instead, turn inward, repent of the apathy that has kept you blind, and seek the shelter of the Most High. We invite you now to join us in a posture of humility and to declare your readiness. Leave your prayer in the comments below as a testament to your vigilance. Lord, keep us awake. Keep us protected under your wings, and help us to overcome these days of trial. Amen. Your voice in the comments is more than just words. It is a signal to the world that there are still those who are watching and waiting. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this message as a final warning bell for those you love. We will continue to monitor the signs as they unfold. Stay vigilant, stay faithful, and may you find peace in the midst of the storm. Amen.